The midwife never spoke again after that night. During the dry season of 1996, under a blood moon, twin girls were born on the outskirts of Meradi, a town buried deep in the Sahelian dust of Niger. Their mother, Zainabu, had been in labor for hours, her screams rising with the scent of blood and incense. It came from the baobab tree. It answered the wrong prayer. That's what she said in her final hours. The villagers said it was the pain talking, but Mama Raki, the old midwife, knew better. She said the first baby arrived strong and screaming, red and healthy, but the second, she didn't cry, she didn't blink, and when Mama Raki held her up to the lantern light, her shadow stretched the wrong way. She dropped the child in terror. Zainabu died before sunrise. The twins lived. The girls were named Hassana and Husseina, traditional names for twin girls in Hausa culture. Hassana cried often, laughed easily, asked endless questions. Husseina was silent, too silent. Even as a toddler, she didn't babble, didn't giggle. Her eyes rarely blinked. Her tiny head turned slowly toward nothing in particular, like she was listening to something no one else could hear. Their father, Musa, tried to raise them alone, a quiet man, once hardened by war and drought. He rarely spoke, but the silence around Husseina seemed to consume even him. Sometimes he caught her standing in the yard at night, barefoot in the dust, staring at the stars. Once he found her sitting in the chicken coop, every hand dead, necks twisted, blood pooled like ink. She smiled at him. That night, he began drinking, and one morning he simply vanished. By the time they turned 9, the twins were sent to live with their aunt Fatima, a strict, devout woman who sold fabrics at the market and never allowed mirrors inside her house. Her rules were simple: no talking after dark, no going near the old well, never speak to your reflection. Fatima didn't believe in nonsense until her oil lamp started flickering every time Husseina walked past. One night, Hassana woke to a voice whispering under her bed, "Not a dream, not a trick. You are supposed to be one soul, not two." She screamed. Fatima came running. Quran in hand, she searched the room, found nothing. Husseina was asleep in her bed, smiling. Stories began to stir. At the market, old women murmured of Zainabu and her years of infertility. They said she had visited a man who lived beneath the ancient baobab tree, just beyond the edge of Meradi, a place where shadows were longer and birds never nested. Some said he was a marabout. Others said he was not a man at all. Zainabu returned from that tree pregnant, but her eyes were never the same. Fatima, driven by fear, went to the tree herself. She passed termite mounds and thorny bush until she stood before the baobab, older than memory, its trunk wide and wrinkled like the back of a great serpent. No one greeted her, just bones scattered at its roots, a broken calabash, a child's slipper. Carved into the bark were the words, "A soul divided will always hunger." By age 12, Hassana began having vivid, repeating dreams. In them, she ran barefoot through a silent version of Meradi, empty streets, red sky, windless air. The buildings stood hollow. No animals, no sounds, just her twin, always a few steps behind. Except in the dream, Husseina's face was wrong. Her eyes were black, skin pale, her teeth too sharp. "Why did you leave me?" she would whisper. "You don't belong here. You were born after me." One night, Hassana woke up on the roof. No ladder, no memory of climbing, no way up. She refused to sleep in the same room as her sister after that night. Then the animals began dying. Goats with twisted spines, chickens with eyes pecked out, Fatima's beloved cat found in a cooking pot, bones boiled clean. Children whispered that Husseina touched them first. One boy he saw her crouched near the well, chewing on something raw. By 14, most villagers crossed the road when they saw her. Then, one scorching Thursday afternoon, Hassana vanished. She never made it home from school. Her backpack was still at her desk. The only thing out of place, a message scratched into the chalkboard. One must go, the other must stay. Fatima unraveled. She smeared ash on her face, spoke in broken sentences, refused to eat. Finally, she locked Husseina in the house, nailed the doors shut, refused her water for 7 days. But the girl didn't wither. She didn't scream. She just sat, smiling, staring at the walls. The villagers, panicked, summoned a Bokai, a powerful Hausa spiritualist from Zinda. He arrived with white robes, collar knots, and incantations. He stood before Husseina and said, "Who are you?" She answered in a man's voice, "I was promised, and I have not finished." Then the air went cold. A floor cracked. The Bokai burst into flames, and Husseina never blinked. 2 years later, a girl appeared on the edge of town, skin burned, clothes torn, her feet blistered and bleeding. It was Hassana. She didn't speak, just stared at everyone like they were strangers, drew symbols in the sand, refused to eat unless the food was salted. Fatima wept, hugged her, bathed her, but Husseina only said she wasn't supposed to come back. The nightmare started the next day. Villagers saw Hassana in their dreams, walking toward them through a red haze, whispering in a voice that sounded like hundreds speaking at once. I wasn't supposed to return. Someone else let me go. Fatima begged her for answers. Finally, Hassana spoke. The man under the baobab offered her mother a choice: one perfect child or 2 flawed ones. She chose 2, but souls don't divide evenly. One side took more. Husseina was never born. She was borrowed, and the other side suffered. She spoke of a mirror world, a place of shadows where trees whispered and buildings bled, where names had weight and forgetting yours meant disappearing. She escaped because someone else took her place. She didn't know who, only that the one who returned was not entirely Hassana anymore. On the eve of their 16th birthday, the sky turned red. All the dogs in Meradi began to howl. All the mirrors shattered. Fatima found the twins standing in the courtyard, hand in hand. One was crying, the other was grinning. No one knows which was which. They said a sound like thunder cracked the sky, and then the earth opened, split right down the middle of the house. The twins fell in, and the ground closed. No quake, no trees, just silence. Today, in parts of Niger, mothers of twins are warned: never name them Hassana and Husseina, never let them share a bed, and never go near the baobab tree outside Meradi, not even in daylight. Some travelers say they've seen two girls walking hand in hand along the highway, one humming, the other staring. If they ask your name, don't answer, because once they know it, you start forgetting who you are, and then you are never quite sure which twin came back.
In the fishing village of Joal, where mangroves cling to salt water graves and the moon glows red in the rainy season, they tell of a man who could raise the dead, not with potions, not with charms, but with music. A griot, not just any singer, but a debkat, a spiritual musician trained in the Sarah rituals of the ancestors. He played a chorus drum with hair from the dead, carved from the hardwood of a tree struck by lightning. They said his voice could pierce the underworld, but the price was something no one was ever willing to pay until Yasin's son died. It was supposed to be a day of joy. Yasin, a single mother and fish trader, had just closed a rare profitable deal. Her 12-year-old son, Mamadou, was playing with the other boys on the docks, daring each other to leap into the deep channel before the tide changed. The tide always wins. Mamadou never came up. The current carried his body to the mangroves, where only the spirits tread. Fishermen wouldn't follow, not even the bravest. The village mourned, but Yasin, she did not yet. On the 7th night after Mamadou's death, the final night of mourning, a man arrived during the rain. He wore white robes muddied at the hem. His face was veiled in thin cloth. Slung across his back was a cracked kora, its strings shimmering like cobwebs. He stood in the middle of Yasin's compound as if he'd always belonged there. "I heard your son's name in the wind," he said. "I can bring him back, but the dead don't return empty." Yasin's heart thudded. "You are a griot?" "No, I am what griots fear becoming." She almost turned him away. Almost. But grief is a hunger, and hunger forgets caution. The man began to play. Not a song, not really. More like a ripple in the world. Something primal that made the goats scream and the chickens lay dead eggs. Yasin covered her ears, but she could still hear it inside her skull, vibrating through bone. And then footsteps in the rain. Small, familiar. Mamadou stepped through the gate, soaked, barefoot, eyes wide and confused. "Mama!" She collapsed, weeping. But when she hugged him, his skin was cold and he did not blink. The villagers rejoiced. For one day, the strange things began to happen. The fish vanished from the nets. The water near the shore turned a sickly green. Dogs howled all night, refusing to go near Mamadou. His friends no longer played with him. He didn't smile. He didn't sleep. At night, he sat on the roof, staring towards the mangroves. Sometimes, he whispered in a tongue no one recognized, not Wolof, not Sere, not Manzinka. Fatu, the village herbalist, who watched him one evening. She saw a second shadow behind him, a taller one. It moved when he didn't. Yasin returned to the man. You didn't tell me what I gave up. He plucked his kora once. The notes bent the air like hot metal. You gave nothing, he said. He did. When the dead return, something must escort them. A guide from the other side, a passenger. That is the price. Can it be removed? Yes, but you won't want to see what's left of your son once it goes. He turned and walked into the rain. Yasin never saw where he slept or how he moved so quietly. But that night, Mamadu spoke in his sleep. The tall one is hungry. He wants more children. It began slowly. First, a baby disappeared from her mat while her mother dozed. Only a feather remained. Then, two brothers drowned together in the shallows. No waves, no currents, just their lungs full of sea water. Each time, Mamadu was seen nearby. Each time, he said he remembered nothing. Yasin knew it was the passenger. She locked Mamadu in the house. It didn't matter. The deaths continued, and Mamadu started changing. He aged faster, grew taller in days, his fingers elongated, his teeth sharpened, and his eyes were no longer his. Desperate, Yasin traveled to Tuba, the city of marabouts and holy men. There, she found Griot Usman, blind but powerful, a singer whose voice was said to cure madness. She begged him for help. Usman touched her hands, listened to her heartbeat, then sighed. I know who you called. He is not a griot. He is a dead jinn, a spirit who lost his name. Now he treats resurrection for company. How do I stop him? You must make your son choose. Choose what? To live without the passenger or return to death. He's just a boy. Not anymore. Yasin returned with Usman. The two griots, one living, one lost, faced each other at the edge of the mangroves. Each drew their instruments. The sky darkened. Birds fell from the trees. They began to play. Usman's song was sorrow-made sound, a hymn to ancestors, to the rhythm of birth and burial. The stranger's song was older, angrier, a melody of hunger and longing. The clash shook the trees, and Mamadu, he screamed, clashed his chest, fell to his knees. Mama, he says if I leave, he will take you instead. Then let him, she whispered. You are not his, you are mine. He wept. For the first time since he came back, he wept. Then the shadow behind him shrieked and dissolved into ash. Mamadu collapsed. When he woke, he remembered nothing of the last 2 years. His voice cracked like broken glass. His muscles trembled. He could barely stand. But he was clean, whole, human. The stronger griot vanished after that. Some say he melted into the salt flats. Others say the mangroves swallowed him. Usman returned to Tuba, but not before warning Yasin he will come again. To other grieving mothers, this music, this hunger, it never dies, only moves. Now, in villages along the Senegalese coast, mothers teach their children a simple rule. If you hear music near the mangroves after dark, don't listen. Plug your ears, run, and never say the name of the dead aloud more than once, because names are keys, songs are doors, and grief is an invitation one you may never be able to take back.